This is Max and Mia podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Max and Mia podcast.
Hello there. We're so happy you're here with us today. How are you doing, Max?
I'm doing great, Mia, and I hope all our listeners are having a wonderful day too. Before we jump into today's topic, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting our podcast.
Absolutely. Your comments, your messages, and just knowing that you're out there practicing your English with us, it really means the world to us.
It really does. And speaking of practice, today we have something super useful for you. We're going to talk about one of the most challenging skills for English learners.
That's right. We're focusing on listening skills today. I know so many of you have told us that understanding native speakers is tough, or that you feel lost when watching movies or TV shows in English.
Oh, I totally get that. Even when you know a lot of vocabulary and grammar, listening can still feel like a puzzle sometimes. But here's the thing. There are specific strategies that can make a huge difference.
Exactly. So today, we're sharing 7 practical tips that will help you boost your listening skills. These aren't just random ideas, they're techniques that actually work.
And the best part? You can start using these tips right away. We're going to give you step-by-step advice that you can apply today, whether you're a beginner or already at an intermediate level.
Some of these might surprise you. We're not just talking about listen to more English, though that's important too. We're getting into the specific how of improving your listening.
So grab a notebook if you want to take some notes, get comfortable, and let's dive into these 7 game-changing tips for better listening skills. All right, let's start with our first tip. And this one is absolutely crucial. It's all about learning to identify what we call chunking. Now, you might be wondering, what on earth is chunking?
Yeah, that sounds pretty mysterious. Can you break it down for us?
Of course. So, when native speakers talk, we don't speak word by word like robots. Instead, we group words together into chunks, like small packages of meaning. For example, instead of saying, I am going to the store, we naturally say, I'm gonna as one chunk, and to the store as another chunk.
Oh, that's fascinating. So it's like we're not listening for individual words, but for groups of words that belong together?
Exactly. You've got it. And here's why this matters so much. When you train your ear to recognize these chunks, listening becomes way easier. Instead of trying to catch every single word, you're focusing on meaningful groups.
I imagine this is why sometimes students can understand individual words, but get confused when people speak naturally, right?
Spot on. That's exactly the issue. Let me give you a practical example. When someone says, "What do you want to do?" it often sounds like, "What do you want to do?" That's 3 chunks instead of 6 separate words. If you're listening for 6 individual words, you'll miss it completely.
That makes so much sense. So how can our listeners start practicing this?
Great question. Here's what I recommend. Pick a short video or audio clip, maybe 30 seconds long. Listen to it once and try to identify where the speaker naturally pauses or groups words together. Don't worry about understanding everything at first. Just notice the rhythm and the chunks.
So it's more about the music of the language than the individual notes?
I love that analogy. Yes, exactly. Once you start recognizing these patterns, your brain begins to expect them, and suddenly English starts to sound less like a jumbled mess and more like organized, predictable chunks of meaning. Now, let's move on to tip number 2, and this one is really exciting. I call it accent hunting. Here's the deal. If you only listen to one type of English accent, you're setting yourself up for trouble in the real world.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way. What do you mean by trouble?
Well, imagine you've been practicing with American movies for months, and then you meet someone from Scotland or Australia. Your brain is going to panic because it's not used to those sounds and rhythms. It's like training for a marathon, but only running on flat ground. When you hit the hills, you're not prepared.
That's such a clever comparison. So, you're saying we need to expose ourselves to variety?
Absolutely. But here's the key. You don't need to become an expert in every accent. You just need to train your ear to be flexible. Think of it like building your accent muscles. The more different sounds you hear, the stronger your listening becomes.
So, where should people start with this accent hunting?
Great question. I recommend starting with the Big Four: American, British, Australian, and Canadian English. But don't try to tackle them all at once. Pick one that's different from what you usually hear. If you always watch American Netflix, try some British YouTube channels for a week.
That sounds doable. Any specific tips for when it gets overwhelming?
Oh, definitely. Here's a neat trick. Start with content where you already know the story. Watch a Disney movie you've seen before, but switch the language settings to a different English accent. Since you know what's happening, your brain can focus on the sounds rather than trying to understand the plot.
Brilliant. So you're reducing the cognitive load while challenging your ears.
Exactly. And here's something cool. After just a few days of this, you'll notice your ear becomes more adaptable. It's like your brain develops this amazing ability to adjust to new sound patterns much faster than before. All right, tip number 3 is one of my personal favorites, and it's deceptively simple. Ready for this? Start listening to content you already know really well, but switch it to English.
Wait, so you mean like rewatching shows I've already seen in my native language?
Bingo! But it goes way beyond just TV shows. Think about it. You probably know your favorite songs by heart, right? You've seen certain movies dozens of times. Maybe you're obsessed with a particular YouTuber or podcast in your language. Well, here's the magic trick. Find similar content in English.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. It's like having a safety net while you practice.
Precisely. Your brain already knows the context, the storyline, the jokes, sometimes even the exact words that are coming next. This frees up mental space to focus purely on the English sounds and pronunciation patterns.
That's genius. So instead of struggling to understand both the content and the language, you're just focusing on the language part.
You've nailed it. And here's what's really cool. This technique works at different levels. If you're a beginner, try watching a children's movie you loved as a kid. The language is simpler, but you still get that familiarity advantage. If you're more advanced, tackle a complex series you've already binged in your language.
Any specific recommendations for getting started?
Oh, tons! If you're into cooking, switch to English cooking channels. Love true crime? There are amazing English podcasts in that genre. The key is finding your passion first, then finding the English version. When you're genuinely interested in the topic, listening stops feeling like work.
And I bet this helps with motivation too, right?
Absolutely. You're not forcing yourself to listen to boring educational content. You're enjoying stuff you'd consume anyway, just in English. It's like sneaking vegetables into a delicious smoothie. You're getting the nutrition without the struggle. Now we're getting to tip number 4, and this one's a game changer: shadowing with emotions. Most people know about shadowing, but they're doing it all wrong.
Hold on, let me guess. Regular shadowing is just repeating what you hear, right?
Exactly. But here's the problem. When people do traditional shadowing, they sound like robots. They focus so much on getting the words right that they completely ignore how those words are being said. They miss the emotion, the attitude, the personality behind the speech.
So it's not just about the words themselves, but about the feeling behind them?
You got it. Think about it. When someone says, "That's great," with excitement versus, "That's great," with sarcasm, the words are identical, but the meaning is completely different. If you're not picking up on those emotional cues, you're missing huge chunks of communication.
That's so true. I've definitely misunderstood people because I didn't catch their tone before.
Right. So, here's how to do emotional shadowing properly. Pick a short clip, maybe 15 to 30 seconds, where someone is expressing a clear emotion. Could be excitement, frustration, surprise, whatever. Listen to it once and focus entirely on the feeling. Don't even worry about the words yet.
Interesting. So you're training your ear to hear emotions first?
Exactly. Then, when you start repeating it, you're not just copying the sounds, you're copying the attitude. Mimic their enthusiasm, their disappointment, their confusion. Act like you're doing voiceover work for a movie.
That sounds like it would be way more engaging than regular shadowing.
It totally is. And here's the bonus. When you practice this way, you naturally pick up on intonation patterns, stress, and rhythm. Your English doesn't just become more accurate, it becomes more human. People will actually enjoy listening to you speak because you sound natural and expressive. All right, let's jump into tip number 5, summary dictation. Now, this one's different from regular dictation, and it's way more powerful for improving your listening skills.
Oh, so we're not just writing down exactly what we hear word for word?
Nope, that's old school dictation, and honestly, it's pretty boring. With summary dictation, you're doing something much more interesting and useful. Here's how it works. You listen to a piece of audio, let's say about 5 minutes long, and then you write a summary in your own words.
That sounds challenging. So, you have to understand the main ideas, not just catch individual words?
Exactly. You're training your brain to listen for meaning, not just sounds. It's like the difference between taking a photo and painting a picture. The photo captures every detail, but the painting captures the essence.
I love that comparison. So what kind of audio works best for this?
Great question. I recommend starting with something structured. Maybe a short news report, a TED Talk segment, or even a well-organized YouTube video. Avoid things like casual conversations or comedy shows at first because they jump around too much.
That makes sense. And how detailed should the summary be?
Here's the beauty of it. You decide. If you're a beginner, maybe just capture the main topic and 2 or 3 key points. If you're more advanced, you can include supporting details, examples, even the speaker's opinion or tone.
So it's like you're proving to yourself that you actually understood what was happening.
Bingo! And here's what's really cool. When you write that summary, you're not just testing your listening, you're also practicing your writing, your vocabulary, and your ability to organize ideas. It's like a full English workout in one exercise.
That's incredibly efficient. Any tips for people who might find this overwhelming at first?
Oh, absolutely. Start small. Maybe with 2-minute clips instead of 5. And don't worry about perfect grammar in your summary. The goal is to capture the meaning, not to write a perfect essay. Think of it as taking notes for a friend who missed the class. Now, tip number 6 is something I discovered by accident, and it's been a total revelation: background listening. This is the opposite of focused listening, and it's incredibly powerful.
Background listening? That sounds like not really listening at all.
I know it sounds weird, but hear me out. Here's what I mean. You play English audio while you're doing other activities. Maybe you're cooking, cleaning, exercising, or even just browsing your phone. The key is that English becomes part of your environment.
Interesting. But how does that help if you're not actively paying attention?
That's the magic. Your brain is still processing those sounds even when you're not consciously focusing. It's like how you can recognize your favorite song playing in another room, even when you're not trying to listen to music. Your brain is getting familiar with English rhythms and patterns.
So it's like passive absorption?
Exactly. But here's the crucial part. This only works if you also do focused listening. Think of background listening as the appetizer, not the main course. It's preparing your brain for when you sit down and really concentrate.
That's fascinating. What kind of content works best for this?
Great question. You want something that's not too dramatic or attention-grabbing. Podcasts about topics you find mildly interesting, audiobooks you've already read, or even English music. The goal isn't to understand everything. It's to let your brain marinate in English sounds.
Marinate. I love that. So how much background listening should people do?
I'd say start with 30 minutes a day. Maybe play a podcast while you do dishes, or have an audiobook running while you organize your room. The beautiful thing is, it doesn't feel like studying because you're multitasking.
And I bet this helps with getting used to the speed of natural English, too.
Absolutely. When you finally sit down for focused listening, normal conversational speed won't feel as overwhelming. It's like training at high altitude. When you come back down, everything feels easier. And now we've reached our final tip, number 7. And this one might surprise you. I want you to read the transcript before you listen to the audio.
Wait, really? Isn't that like cheating?
I totally get why you'd think that. Most people believe you should listen first, then check the transcript. But I'm going to flip that idea on its head, and here's why this approach is actually brilliant.
Okay, I'm curious. What's the logic behind this?
Think about it this way. When you read the transcript first, you're loading your brain with the vocabulary, the concepts, and the structure of what you're about to hear. It's like giving your brain a roadmap before starting a journey.
So instead of getting lost trying to figure out what's being said, you can focus on how it's being said?
Exactly. You're not struggling to understand the meaning anymore. Instead, you're focusing on pronunciation, intonation, connected speech, and all those subtle details that make native speakers sound natural.
That's actually really smart. And I bet this is especially helpful for our podcast listeners, right?
Oh, absolutely. We always include transcripts in our episode descriptions for exactly this reason. You can read through it first, get familiar with the content, and then listen to us. You'll notice things like how we pronounce certain words, where we pause, how we emphasize important points.
So it's like having a behind-the-scenes look at the language?
Perfect way to put it. And here's another bonus. When you do this regularly, you start to notice patterns. You'll see how written English transforms into spoken English. Words that look completely different on paper suddenly make sense when you hear them.
That sounds like it would build a lot of confidence, too.
It really does. Instead of feeling frustrated because you can't catch everything, You feel successful because you're picking up on all these nuances. It's like switching from hard mode to expert mode. You're still challenging yourself, but you're set up for success. And there you have it, 7 powerful tips to transform your listening skills. Let me quickly recap what we've covered today.
Yes, we talked about chunking, listening for groups of words instead of individual ones, then accent hunting to make your ear more flexible.
Right. We also discussed using familiar content in English, doing shadowing with emotions, and trying summary dictation to focus on meaning rather than just sounds.
Don't forget background listening, letting English become part of your environment. And finally, reading transcripts before listening to focus on the how instead of the what.
The key thing to remember is this: you don't need to use all 7 tips at once. Pick 1 or 2 that sound interesting and give them a try this week. Small, consistent steps always beat trying to do everything perfectly.
Absolutely. And remember, progress takes time. Be kind to yourself and celebrate the small wins along the way.
Before we wrap up, I want to remind you that the transcript for this episode is available in the description below. Why not put tip number 7 into practice right now?
That's a great idea. Read through it, then listen to this episode again. You'll be amazed at what you notice the second time around.
If you found these tips helpful, please hit that like button and share this episode with a friend who's learning English. Your support means everything to us.
And if you try any of these techniques, we'd love to hear about your experience. Leave us a comment and let us know which tip worked best for you.
Thanks for spending your time with us today. Keep practicing, keep improving, and most importantly, keep enjoying your English learning journey.
Until next time, this has been Max and Mia. Take care, everyone.
See you in the next episode.